Hey guys, welcome to another video. So in this video, we are going to build a fully functional website using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. This project is beginner friendly and will teach you the basic of vanilla JS and CSS3. In this project, we are going to use some JavaScript libraries such as select slider for sliding, AOS for animation, and font awesome for icons. Now let's see what we are gonna build in this video. So the first part is this heading. As you can see, we have some icons in here for our social media, and also we have a toggle. If we toggle, you can see we will have a dark background color. So in this video, I will show you how to make a dark and light mode using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. In the next part, we are going to implement the navigation. So we are going to have the name of the person, this is her position, and the navigation part. Down here, we will have a banner that has some text inside, and this button, you can see this button has this animation, okay? If I scroll down, you can see this AOS library that implement this animation, and again we have the same animation in this button. And in the next part we will have this cards. I will show you how to use display flex and display grid in this video, and also this button. Okay, now in the next part we are going to have a slider for our testimonials. Okay, you can see our sliding is working perfectly, and I will show you how to implement your own arrow in here. Okay, so in the next part we are going to have some cards for our article blocks. You can see our button has animation as well, and these cards. Okay, and we are going to have an input for our subscribe, and down here we are going to have some logos for the companies, and finally in the footer we are going to have the same navigation as the header, these icons and this copyright text, as well as we are going to have this button. If I click this, it will jump to the beginning of our web page. Now let's check it. You can see it will jump to the beginning of the web page. So this project is completely responsive. Now if I check, as you can see this is completely mobile friendly, and if I scroll down you can see all the components are completely responsive. And finally, if I refresh the page, you can see we have this loading. So in this video I will show you how to make this loading using CSS and JavaScript. So I hope this video will be helpful for you. Please make sure to like this video and give a subscribe to my channel. Now let's get started. Okay everyone, now I am inside the Visual Studio Code, and as you can see I have a folder, and inside that I have another folder for my images, and I'm gonna use all of them inside this project. Beside this folder we are gonna need a new file for our HTML, so I just write index.html, and a new folder for our JavaScript, so I just write index.js. And finally, we need to have a folder for our CSS. So I just write CSS. And inside that, I have a file, styles.css. Okay, now let's link these two files inside the HTML. So inside the HTML, just click the shape and click the one. And once you have this exclamation mark, just press enter. Now I'm gonna change this to service website. And to link my CSS, I'm gonna come in here, custom CSS file, and write link. I just link my CSS, and down here I just write custom JavaScript and link my JavaScript file. I just write script with search and go to my folder and choose this index.js. And now because we add this index.js in the head, you need to add this default keyword. Alright, now let's run our HTML code. If I write here h1 hello world, and I need to open that with the live server. So you need to make sure to have this live server inside your Visual Studio Code. Just go ahead and install that in here. Just write live server and you will get this one and just install. Okay. Now inside the index.js, just click this open server. Or you can just click this button and the live server will be started. Alright, now let's do some general setup. Just come to the CSS and inside that you need to target the whole website. Margin 0, padding 0, box sizing to be border box. Okay, now to change this font family, you need to go to Google and search for Google Fonts. Click this one. So in this case, we are gonna use the Poppin font family. Just look for Poppin, and in here you can choose how big your text should be. So I'm gonna choose this one. Okay, once you have clicked all of them, just open this one and copy this code. Come back and inside your CSS file, just paste that. Okay, now come back again and copy this one, paste it inside here. Now you can see that the font family is changed. Alright, now let's build this website. So I just close all my files. And down here, the very first thing that I'm gonna write is a header because we need to make the header part. Okay, inside this header, we need to have another class for our social icons. And inside this, we need to have a div for our social. So inside here, we need to have another div for connect. So inside this connect, we need to have a heading for connect text. And following that, we need to have some icons. So to get that icons, we need to install the font awesome. So I just go back inside here, look for font awesome CDN, and you can click this one and just copy the very first link in here. I just copy and come back to index.html. Up here I just write font awesome library. You can write here link and just paste it. Now you have access to font awesome. So to get the icons, just go to font awesome website in here, and I'm gonna look for the icons. Inside these icons, you can write your icons name here. So I just look for Instagram icon, hit enter, and it will keep generating the icons. Now you can see we have the icon. Just click this icon and down here click this one. Okay, so this is the code for the icon. If you click, it will be copied. Just come back and down here we need to have an href which is not going anywhere currently, and paste this here. Now you can see we have the Instagram icon. Okay, similar to this, we are going to get another icon. Okay, we have our icons. So the next thing that we need to have is a toggle button to toggle between dark and light mode. I just come back and down the connect div, you need to have another div and call that dark toggle. Okay, and inside this you need to have another div, and I'm gonna call that toggle. Okay, now let's style this. I just go back to the CSS folder again, and inside those styles I have already pasted some color code that we are going to need in this website, and you can receive this from my GitHub repository that I will link that in the description. Okay, if I add the header and other styles, it will be so much styles inside one file. So to avoid that, we need to have separate files for each single of our component. So I just come back and make a new file, a new folder first. I'm gonna name that pages. Inside here, I just write header.css. Now we need to link that to our main CSS. I just come back. You can see I have already linked that this way. Okay, now let's style this. At first, I'm gonna target the header and social icons. For this, I need to have a background color of my color code that I have inside this style.css. You can see that I have this social BG in here, and I just write it down here. Now, if I refresh the page, nothing happened. That is because I need to change this name. Okay, now you can see that the background color is changed. Okay, the next thing I need to have a padding. So for the top and bottom I need to write 0.7 rem, and for the left and right we are gonna have 0. Okay, now I'm gonna target this social icons, social. We need to add this comma because we are going to apply this style for all of them, and disconnect. So we need to add a display flex for all of them and align items center. Now you can see they are beside each other. Okay, so down here I need to target this social, so I just copy here, and for this social we need to have a justify content to space between and a width of 80% and also a margin 0 auto. Now you can see that it has a little padding to the right and left. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna write social icons and connect. I just write justify content space between and a gap of 1 rem. For this I'm gonna target this heading 4, and the font size is going to be 0.7 rem. The font width is going to be 600, and also a text transform of uppercase. And finally we need to have a color of var and black color. Okay, and then we need to have a style for our social icons, and the color is going to be black color. Now you can see that the colors are changed. Okay, we need to set a hover for this icon. I just target this social icon A, hover, and we need to apply this color to this one, bar and social hover. Now you can see that we have a little hover in these icons. Alright, now let's style our toggle buttons. I just write here toggle button. So I just target this dark toggle, and inside here we need to have a position relative first, and then a background color of toggle bg, and then we need to have a width of 3 rem, a height of 1.5 rem, a border radius of 50 pixel, and finally a box shadow of 0 pixel, 0 pixel, 1 pixel, 0.1 pixel, insert, and this color 0, 0, 0. Now if I refresh the page, you can see that we have that over here. Now to make the button inside here, we need to write dark toggle and target this toggle. We need to do a position absolute, and the width is going to be 1.8 rem. The height is going to be 1.8 rem, and also a background color of var toggle head. We need to have a border radius of 50%, and for the top we need to add minus 0.12 rem. For the left we need to add minus 0.1 rem, and we need to have another box shadow, so I just copy this one, paste it here, and this one is going to be 0.3 pixel, and this one is going to be 2 pixel, and the color is going to be var black color, and we need to add a cursor pointer, and finally a transition 400 millisecond is in out. Okay, now as you can see that we have this circle inside here, so later on in JavaScript we will implement this to move around. Okay, I think we have an error inside the styling because this was supposed to be up here and our links are not in the right place. Now let's figure it out. Okay, the problem is here because we added the social icons 2 times, so we need to target this social and delete this one. Now if I refresh the page, you can see that our styling is on its place. Okay, now let's check it in responsive, inspect that, and you can see it's not giving an error. So in this size, I think this is too big, so we need to target this one and decrease the width of this middle button. So I just come back, and down here we need to target that size. I just said at media 500 pixel, dark toggle, and the middle one. Okay, so inside here we need to just decrease this width and height. I just copy and paste them and change this 8 to 3. Now you can see that the middle one looks smaller, so it's going over here. That's because we need to decrease the size of the parents as well. So I just come back, and down here I target this toggle, and inside here I just write a width of 2.4 rem and a height of 1.1 rem. If I refresh, now you can see that it's looking good. Alright, now let's implement the next part. So I just close this file, and we need to add a comment header part, and also this social part. Okay, now down here we need to have some nav. You need to comment down here, so maybe later on if somebody else read your code, they should understand what's going on here. So in here we need to have a nav with the class of navs. Inside here we need to first have a title, so I just write nav title. Inside here we need to have an h1, we need to have a tag, and we are going to add this. Okay, we have them, and down here we need to have a ul and other list. Inside here we need to have the list and this href. The first thing is going to be home. Just copy and paste that. Now you can see that they are over here. So to style that, we need to go back, and down the header we need to style our navigation. So in here I just write navigation part. I'm gonna split that again. So at first we need to target the navs, and we need to add a flex again to this. So I don't want to write that because we already have a flex in here. I just copy and paste that over here. Now the display flex will be applied to my navs as well. Okay, now I just need to write a flex direction of column, and also a justify content of center, and finally a padding of 2 rem for top and bottom and 0. Now if I refresh, you can see it's in the middle. Okay, now I'm gonna target this navs and nav title. So inside this title we need to target this heading 1. So I just write heading 1, and then for this we need to write a text transform of uppercase, a font width of 500, and also a letter spacing of 4 pixels. We need to have a font size of 1.9 rem, and finally we need to have a color of, you can see that we have a different text in here. Now let's style this tag. So down here again I copy this, and I'm gonna target this tag. We need to have a color of var and this dark black, and also we need to have a padding bottom of 2 rem. Okay, let's check. You can see that it's looking good now, but we need to add that in the middle. So how do we do that? We just target this itself and add a text align of center. Now you can see that it's in the middle. Okay, now it's time to style our navigation. So down here we need to target this navs and the ul. I'm gonna add a gap of 2 rems, but before that we need to have a display flex. So again I just go back and write this ul in here, and this display flex will be applied to the ul as well. If I refresh, you can see that they are beside each other. Okay, and now we need to target each single of this list. So I just write ul list, and I'm gonna write list style of now. You can see this dot will be gone. Alright, so because we may have another list or list inside our website, it's not a good practice to write them in the CSS because it may affect in all of our UL and LI. So for that cause, we need to have a class for our UL. So I just write here a class of nav list. Now I just copy this, paste it here, and change this UL with the nav list class. Okay. Now we need to target this A tag and change their color. So I just come back and write nav list and A. So the color is going to be var black color, and also a text decoration of none, text transform of uppercase, and also a position of relative. Now you can see that we have styled our nav in here. Alright. Now let's add a hover functionality. So when we hover the nav, a line will be drawn down here. So to do that, I just go back. Inside here, we need to target this all, but we need to target the before pseudo element. So I just target that. The first one is going to be content, and then a position of absolute. If you don't know what is position absolute and what is position relative, so position absolute will let you move your elements around, and this position relative will help you to not overflow this element. So this is the parent and this is the child. So when you set a position relative to the parent and position absolute to the child, it will not overflow from the parent element. Okay, but if you don't set this position relative to the parent, it will be for the main page. Okay, so down here we need to write button. So for the button, it's going to be minus 0.3 rem. For the left, it's going to be 0. For the right, it's going to be 0. And then it will have a background color of black color and a height of 1 pixel. Now let's check. If I refresh, you can see that we have this line over here. I just add a transform scale 0, and if I refresh, you can see that the lines are gone. And now we need to set a hover to this A tag. So I just copy this all and add a hover to this one and write this double. We need to have double. Okay, and inside here we need to write transform scale of 1. Okay, I just come back and refresh. You can see that we have the length over here, but we want that to be smoothly. So I just write a transition of 400 millisecond is in out. Okay, now it's moving from the middle, and you can control this using this keyword. You can write transform origin left. Now you can see that it's coming from the left side. You can add, let's say, right, and if you check, you can see it's coming from the right side. But in this case, I'm gonna use the left, so I just change that to left. Alright, so when we hover, I want this text to be a little darker, so I just add a hover to each tag itself and give it a color of var and social hover. Now if I hover, you can see it will be a little dark. Alright, now we are done with this part, and the next part is going to be our banner. I just go back, close this one, and down the nav we need to have another comment for banner part, and we need to have a div for banner. So inside here we need to have another div for banner text, and inside here we need to have a span tag, and I'm gonna write it is time to innovate. Okay, and the next one is going to be h1, and finally we need to have a button with the class of banner button, and then I'm gonna write start setting goal. Okay, so our banner will have a background image. We are gonna do that in the CSS part. So I just go back, open the header again, and in here I just write banner part, and first target header and banner. So the width is going to be 100%, the height is going to be 600 pixels, and we need to have a background image. So I just write background and linear gradient of RGBA 0 with the opacity of 0.200, and the next one is going to be RGBA, and this is the same as this one. And finally we need to have an image, so I just write URL, and our image is coming from our image folder, and the image is going to be this. Okay, now we need to add a background position of top, background repeat, no repeat, background size is going to be cover, and position is going to be relative. Also we need to have a display flex, and flex direction is going to be column. Now if I come back, okay, it's not working. Let's check out. Okay, I found that I made a mistake. We need to have header only because it's not a class. Okay, if I click and refresh, you can see that we have the image in here. Alright, now let's target and style this text. So I just come back, and here I target the banner and our banner text div. We need to have a background color of var and banner bg, and also we need to have a weight of 32 rem, a height of 2 rem, a position relative, a margin 12 rem, 0, 0, and 5 rem. Now let's style our text. So I just target the banner text, span, and also h1. So for this we need to have a text transform of uppercase and a font width of 500 and a letter spacing of 2 pixels. Okay, now you can see that they are changed. I don't know why the background color is not applying, but it's okay, I will figure it out. So for the h1 itself, h1 we need to have a font width of 600 a font size of 1.8 rem, and a padding of 0.5 rem and 0. Okay. For the p tag, we need to have a width of 25 rem, a padding bottom of 1 rem, and a margin 0 auto. So the problem with the background color is I made a mistake here. So instead of this height, I need to have a padding, so we don't need any height in here. Now you can see that we have a background color. Okay, now let's style this button. Down here, I just target this banner and this banner button. We need to have a padding of 0.6 rem, 1.5 rem, a text transform of uppercase, a letter spacing of 1 pixel, a cursor pointer, a background color of var, btnbg, and a border of none, and finally we need to have a transition of 400 milliseconds is in and out. Now you can see that the button is styled in here. We need to come back and target this banner btn again. Down here, we need to set a position absolute. For the bottom, it's going to be -1 rem. For the left, it's going to be 50%, and a transform translate of -50% and 0%. Now you can see that the button is over here. We need to set a hover. So again, I'm gonna target this one and set a hover into it. The hover is going to be transform translate y of -10 pixel. Okay, you can see that it's moving this way. So to solve this problem, you need to write this one. You can see that it's now not moving to other side. Okay, now let's implement the responsive part. Okay, now for the responsive part, I'm gonna target this media, maximum width of 680 pixel, and the first thing is going to be social icons. We need to give it a width in this size, social, and I'm gonna give it a width of 90%. And then we need to target the banner. So header, banner, we need to add a justify content of center, align items of center, and finally for the banner text, banner and banner text, we need to give it a margin 0 and a margin top of 12 frame. Now let's check. If I inspect this and if I decrease the size, you can see that we will have a width of 90% here and our text will go down here. It still has some problems in other sides, so I just come back and copy. So I just get rid of this. We don't need them. And now for the size of 590 pixel, we need to give it a width of 90% and a text align of center. And if you remember, we added a width for our p tag, and it will make a problem too. So I just copy this one down here. We need to give it a width of 90%. Okay, now let's check. You can see it's not making problems anymore. But now the problem is the button. Now let's fix that. So I just copy this again. And this time for 480 pixel, we need to target this banner between. I just get rid of this one. Banner between. And we need to give that a position of absolute. For the button, it's going to be -1 rem. For the left, it's going to be 25%. And a transform translate of 0. Okay, now if I decrease the size, you can see that our button is not getting damaged. But the problem is when we hover, it's not working. So the way we can fix that, I just copy and paste that. And now we need to do a hover. And then I'm gonna delete this all and add a Y in here. And the translate Y of -10 pixel. Now if I go back and hover, you can see that our hover is working perfectly. Alright. Now we have a problem inside the nav. So to solve this problem, I just go back. And again, I'm gonna target the navs. And this one, nav list. So the gap is going to be 0 and justify content of space between. And finally, we need to set a width of 90%. Now you can see that we still have a problem because we need to decrease the size of these navs. So I just come back, I copy this again. I'm gonna get rid of this, and in here we need to target the li and a and give it a font size of 0.9 rem. Now you can see that. Alright, so in this size you can see that the button is not in the right place. So to solve this problem, we need to target the button again. So I just target here, and we need to set the left to be 18%. Now you can see that the button is in the right place. Alright, now we have a responsive banner and navigation. Now let's implement the rest of our website. I just go back, and down here, down the header, we are done with the header part. So the next part is going to be profile part. We need to have a section with the class of profile, and inside here we need to have an image. So first of all, I'm gonna write a div for profile image, and in here we need to first have a text with the class of coach. The text is going to be and also an image. So I just write the image. Our image is going to be inside the image folder, profile1.png, and inside this alt I just write profile. Now if I go back, you can see that we have this text and this image. Okay, now we need to have another div. So down here we need to have another div for profile text. Inside here we need to have a p tag for introduce. Okay, and I'm gonna write I am. Then we need to have a heading 1, and in here I just write I help. And now we need to have a description. So for this description we need to generate a lorem text. So I just write a p tag with the class name of description. Inside here we need to have a lorem of 40 characters. Okay, now you can see that our text and image are ready, and now let's style that. So I just come back, and inside this pages I make a new file, and I'm gonna name that banner.css. I'm gonna link that again here, copy and paste this, and change this to be banner. Okay, I just split the code. Now I'm gonna target the profile, add a display flex, a gap of 2 rem, a padding of 6 rem and 0, a weight of 75%, and a margin 0 auto. And now we need to set a flex one to our image div. So I just come down and write profile and target this profile image. We need to write a flex 1, so it will take space. Now you can see that they are beside each other, and we need to have a smaller image. So I come down here, so I just target the profile and this profile image. Inside here we need to target the image, and I'm gonna write a weight of 24 rem. Now you can see that we have a little smaller image. Okay, and then we need to target this coach because we wanna move this text over here. So I just come down and write profile image and this coach. We need to write a position absolute, write 0 for the top 0.5 rem. Font size is going to be 1.5 rem. Text transform is going to be uppercase. For the font width, I'm gonna give it 500, and letter spacing is going to be 2 pixels, and finally I will give it a black color. Okay, now let's check. If I refresh, so the text was supposed to be here, but it's moved over here. So as I mentioned, when you add a position absolute to the child, you need to add a position relative to the parent, so it's not overflowing the parent. Now you can see the example. I didn't add the position relative to the parent, but it moved all the way over here. So now I just come back and add a position relative to its parent. If I come back, you can see the text is in here. Alright. Now let's style this text. I just come down and target this profile text. We are gonna give it a flex one again. Margin top is going to be 4 rem and a color of war and this black color. Okay, now for the other text, I just copy here and we need to target this class, this p tag, and for this we need to give a text transform of uppercase, a font width of 600 and a width of 25 rem, letter spacing of 2 pixel, font size of 0.9 rem and a padding bottom of 1 rem. Now let's check. You can see that we have a different text in here. So I just copy here and change this to be h1. For the h1 I'm gonna give a font width of 500 and a padding bottom of 0.5 rem. Okay, now we need to have a button here. So I just come back and down here we need to have a button with the class of btn, and now to style this button I just write profile text and target this button. We need to give it a margin top of 1 rem and a width of 15 rem. Okay, you can see we have a width in here, and for the colors we will have the same colors and style like this button. So we don't want to override the code. I just copy and paste the style of this button. So I just go back inside this header. I'm gonna find the button. As you can see, this is the button, so I just copy this and paste it here. Okay, and you can see that we have the same button as this one. Okay, now we need to implement this hover, so I just go back and we need to copy this one, and I'm gonna target this button and hover and paste this code inside here, but this time we don't need this one. Okay, now you can see it's working perfectly. Alright, okay, now here we have a problem. You can see that the text is not supposed to be over here and the text should be inside this div. So how do we solve this problem? I didn't cut this all problem solving, so you can understand that everyone can make mistake and you need to find a solution for that. Okay, so how do we fix that? I just come back and up here as you can see that I added this width to image itself. So what do I need to do is I just come here, copy this one and put that inside another div. I'm gonna name that image and paste that inside here. Now instead of giving this 24 rem to image itself, I'm gonna give that to the parent, okay, to this image div. Alright, now if I refresh, you can see my image is overflowing. Okay, now we need to give a width for the image itself. So I just copy here, target the image and we are gonna give this width of 24 rem to this one as well. And also we need to copy this one and paste it inside this image. Now you can see the text is inside our box. Okay, so as we are done with this part, we need to implement the responsive part. So I just inspect. So first of all, I'm gonna target the size of, and down here I write media maximum width of 1100 pixel, and the first thing I'm gonna target is profile text and that p tag introduce text, and I'm gonna give that a width of 100%, and then I just copy this one, delete introduce and text, and in here I'm gonna give that a width of 85% for the profile itself. Okay, now it's looking good, but in other sizes we need to give it a flex box. So now I just copy this one, 984 pixel. For the profile, I'm gonna give a width of 90%, and again I copy this one for 890 pixel. For the profile, I'm gonna give a flex direction of column reverse and align items center and a padding of 0. Now you can see if I decrease the size, it will have different sizes. It will move from smaller size to 85% and then to 90%. And if I decrease more, you can see this flex will be applied. Okay. Now if I decrease the size, you can see that my image width is not moving anymore. So to solve that, and now I need to target this profile image and this image div. I'm gonna get rid of this one and I will give this a width of 100%. Okay, now we need to give this width to the image itself. Okay, as you can see, we have applied this profile here with the image. So I just get rid of this image and write image here. Now if I go back and refresh the page, you can see that the image will move as we decrease the size of our screen. So the problem is with our text. Now let's solve this problem. Okay, I go up here and for this I just gave it a font size of 5.5 view width and a little spacing of 1 pixel. Now if I decrease the page, you can see that my text will be remain in its place. Okay, now we have successfully made the responsive part of this one, and let's move to the other part. Okay, so I just go back, I need to close this all, and down this section I'm gonna write support part. We need to have another section with the class of support. Inside here we need to have a div with the class of support content, and inside here at first we need to have an h1 for the title. Okay, so down here we need to have our cards. So I just write here support cart, and inside here we need to have our single cart. So I just write cart, and our cart will have an image. So cart image, and I'm gonna paste my image here. So I just go to image folder and look for business tree, and this I'm just write image. Okay, and down here we need to have a p tag. I'm gonna write an h1. Okay, so since we are going to have three cards, I just copy and paste them, 1, 2 and 3. Okay, if I refresh the page, you can see that I have our cards in here. Now let's change the images. And we have this image. Okay, and at the end of this we need to have a button again, support button. So inside here we need to have a button. Inside I'm gonna write learn more. Okay, and the class name is going to be button. Alright, this hover is coming from the previous class that we added in here, but don't worry, I will solve this. So now let's style our cards. I go back, and inside this pages I'm gonna have a new file, and I'm gonna write support.css. I need to link this again here, support. Okay, so for support div itself we need to set a height of 100% and a background color of var, and this support bg. Okay, now you can see we have a different background color, and down here I need to target another div which is support content. I'm gonna give it a width of 80%, a margin 0 auto, and a padding of 2 rem 0. Okay, and then support content and title. I'm gonna write text align of center, a font weight of 500. For padding bottom we need to write 2 rem, text transform of capitalized, and for the color we need to give it a black color. Okay, here we have a problem. This is because this one is contents and I write content. Okay, now you can see that we have styled our text, so it's overflowing because we need to decrease the size of these images. So down here I'm gonna target this support content again and support cards. This one. Okay, so I'm gonna add a display grid to it, and then we need to write grid template columns, repeat, auto fit, and minimum maximum 250 pixel and 1 fr. So this is the minimum size of our card and this is the maximum size, and using this grid you don't have to worry about the responsive part, and it will make your cards responsive automatically. Now if we go back and refresh the page, you can see that the cards are beside each other, but still we need to give style to our images. So I come down here and I'm gonna target the support cards, this card class, and also this card image. I'm gonna give it a weight of 100%, and we need to give a weight of 100% to image itself. So I just write here image. Now if I refresh, you can see that the size of our image is decreased, but they are not looking good. So how we can solve that? First of all, we need to add a gap between them. So I just write gap of 2 rem. You can see there are some spaces between them, and now we need to give a height for our image, height of 12 rem, and object width of cover. Now you can see that our image are the same size. Okay, so I said you don't have to worry about the responsive part. If I inspect this, you can see that our cards are responsive automatically. Okay, if I increase the size, you can see it will be responsive automatically. Okay, now let's style this text down here. I'm gonna copy this one again, but instead of this card image, I'm gonna target this p tag and give it a text transform of uppercase, a font size of 0.9 rem, a padding of 0.4 rem, and 0 letter spacing is going to be 1 pixel. Font width is going to be 500, and our color is going to be black again. It's dark black. Okay, now our text are looking good. For the next text, I just copy this. Now I am gonna target this heading 1. So our text transform is going to be capitalized. The font width is going to be 500. The font size is going to be 1.5 rem, and the color is going to be this black color. Okay, now we need to give style to each single of this card. So to give this style, I just go back and target this support card and card. So I'm gonna target the end child of 3, which is this one. We need to add a transform translate of y for rem. Okay, now you can see this one is down. Okay, so the second one, actually I need to change that to be 2, and this one is going to be 2 rem, and for the 3 is going to be 4 rem. Okay, now you can see that this one is on its plus, it's a little down, and this one is more down. Okay, now we need to style this button. So I just come back. I need to target this support button and give it a text align of center and a padding of 2.5 rem and 0. Now you can see it's over here. Alright, and for the button we need to give it a width of, so I just target this support button, and button itself I'm gonna give it a width of 13 rem. Okay guys, now we need to give style to this button. If you remember, we have the same style in here and the same style in here. So if we add this code in all the components that we need, it will just mess up our CSS file. So what we need to do is we just write one class in the main style.css and then apply that class to all the button we need. So now let's do that. If you remember, we added that inside our banner site. Okay, so I just come down, and this is our style. So I just copy here, delete it, open this style.css, and in here I'm gonna make a new class and call that button style. Okay, and paste this code over here. Now if I go back, you can see that the style is gone. So how do we add that style back? Just go back to HTML, and inside here just add our new class. Okay, so the new class is button style, so just add this one. You can see that we have the same style back. So for this button, just add this class, go down here and add this class. Now you can see that we have the same button. Okay, you can change that for this one if you want. Okay, now our button is ready, but we need to add a little space between this card and this button. That is because I added this button div inside this support content. So I just need to add that inside the section itself. So I bring it down here. Okay, so we are done with this part. Now for the responsive part, we don't have to do much things. I just come back, and at first I'm gonna write responsive here. Okay, I'm gonna target at media 990 pixel, and I'm gonna write this support content, and I need to give this a width of 90%. Okay, and also for 590 pixel I'm gonna target this too. Come down here, okay, and I'm gonna get rid of the transform, translate, and just write 0. Okay, and in the same size we need to target the image, so this one, because you can see that in here the size of image is not looking good. So what I need to do is I just set a height of 100%. Okay, now it's looking good. Okay, and finally for this button I just target this one. I'm gonna give it a padding top of 1 rem. Now you can see that our cards are fully responsive. Okay, alright guys, we are done with this part. Now let's move to the other part. Alright guys, so in this part we are gonna implement the select slider library. So before we start writing code, we need to install that first. So I just open the browser, and in here I'm gonna look for select slider. As you can see, they have a website here. Okay, now if you click this usage, it will bring you all the way down here, and in the last part you will see a CDN link down here. You will see a link for CSS and one for JavaScript. So all you need to do is just copy this link. I'm gonna copy this and come back to HTML. In here you need to write, in the head you need to write select slider, comment that, and just paste your CSS. Okay, and the next link is for JavaScript. All you need to do is just copy it and come back down here. Inside the body you need to write select slider and just paste this link here. Okay, now we are ready to make our review slider. So I just go back. So down here I need to make a new section with the class of client. Then we need to have a new div with the class of client contents. Inside here we need to have a heading, and now we need to write for our slider. So our slider need to have a container first. So our container name is going to be client slider, and we need to have a single slider for this. So I need to write single slider. Inside here we first need to have a p with the class of review. So our text is going to be lorem of 50. Okay, and then we need to have another paragraph for our author. So I'm gonna write author, and the name of author is going to be Alice P. Okay, now we need to copy and paste this for multiple times. Okay, now let's check it in the browser. You can see that we have text over here. Now we need to move to the JavaScript part. So I have already a file for JavaScript here. I come back to select slider documentation, and in here I need to look for responsive. You can see we have responsive display. It's sliding responsively. So I just copy this and just paste this inside JavaScript file. Okay, as you can see, it needs to have a class. So this class is going to be our container, which is this one. And now all we need to do is just bring this class name in here. So I'm gonna use the curly selector. I need to write the slider container here, which is equal to document.curlySelector and my class name. Okay, I need to just copy and paste it here. Now let's check. Okay, it's not working. Let's see the error. Okay, the errors say that we are not recognizing the dollar sign. You can see the dollar sign is coming from jQuery. Okay, so we need to get the jQuery link. I just go here and just look for jQuery CDN link. Click this one, and all you need to do is just click this link. Okay, you need to come back inside the HTML. After this one, you need to make a new script with search and paste it here. Okay, now if we check, it's not working. What else? jQuery is not defined. .click is not a function. Okay, now you can see that our sliding is working. So all you need to do is you need to write the jQuery link at the beginning of this script. Okay, so now it's currently displaying 4 items, so I need to display only one item, and also we need to scroll only one item. Okay, now you can see we are able to scroll only one icon, and we will display only one review in here. Okay, now we need to go to our CSS and style this. Okay, now I'm gonna have a new CSS file here. I'm gonna call that review.css, and I need to link this here. I just copy this and change this to be review. Now let me open the CSS file. So at first I'm gonna target this client. So before that I need to write here to separate the section review part, need to comment client. I'm gonna give it a background color of var review bg and a padding of 3 rem 0 and a position of relative. Now let's check. You can see that we have a different background color here. Now we need to target this contents. For this we need to give it a weight of 70%, a margin 0 auto, and for this heading I just copy this again. Heading 1, we need to give it a display of inline, a text transform of uppercase, a font width of 500, and a letter spacing of 1 pixel. We need to give it a font size of 1.2 rem, a position relative, and finally a color of var and black color. Now let's check. You can see that we have added a weight to this one. Now you can see that we have added a weight. Okay, now you can see that we have a different text here and added a weight. Now let's move on. So for this heading 1 we need to have a little border down here, so I just copy this and target the before pseudo element. We need to give the content to be empty string. The position is going to be absolute. For the bottom I'm gonna give it minus 0.4 rem. For the right is going to be minus 1.2 rem. It's gonna have a width of 6 rem and a height of 3 pixel and a background color of var and this black color and this black color. Now let's check. You can see that we have a line here. Okay, now let's style our slider. So I'm gonna target this down here. I need to write it, and we need to give it a padding top of 4 rem and an overflow of hidden. Okay, you can see it will add a padding here like this. So as you can see we have dots in here, infinite speed, and this slide to show means how many slides do we want to show in here. If you increase the number, let's say 2, it will show 2 cards. So this one is for how many cards do we want to slide per scroll. So if I chose it to be 2, Now you can see when I scroll, two cars will be scrolled at the same time. Okay, but I don't want that. I want that to be 1 and 1 again. Okay, now for the dots, I just want to say false. Now if I refresh the page, you can see the dots are gone, and for this arrow we are gonna implement our own arrows. So I just write here arrows to false. So to get these details, all you need to do is just go to select slider documentation, and down here you will get bunch information about how to change those default styles. Okay, you can see they have arrows. Like I said, by default it's true. The first one is previous arrow and the next arrows. Okay, so there are a bunch of things that you can work on. Just go ahead and read this all. Okay, and then we need to target this review. So I'm gonna write client slider and this review. For this we need to give a weight of 80%, a margin 0 auto, a line height of 1.8 rem, and a color of black. Okay, now let's check. You can see that the text width is decreased. Now let's implement this one. So I just target this, and now we need to target this author, change this one. For this we need to give a text transform of uppercase, a text align of center. We need to give a padding top of 2 rem and letter spacing of 1 pixel, and give it a color of war and dark black. You can see that our slider is completed. Okay, now let's check it in responsive part. You can see in responsive part it's looking so ugly because it's displaying 3 items. So what we need to do is I need to close this. I go back to JavaScript, and in here you can see that it has breakpoints, and this one is at 1024 pixel, so it's displaying 3 cars. I'm gonna change that back to 1. The dots is going to be false again, and 600 we need to give it 1 and the last one. So I just delete this comments here. Now if I refresh, you can see it will display only 1 card all the time. Okay, now in mobile versions we need to give a separate style because it has a lot of spacing here. So I just open the CSS again. I need to open this review. At first I'm gonna target the add media, maximum width of 990 pixel, and I need to target this client and client content. For this we need to give a width of 90%, and again, okay, now you can see it has less space but it still has more space in here. So I just copy this one. Let's write here responsive part. Okay, and now we need to target in 600 pixel, and again we need to target the P. So for this we add a width of 90% and a text align of center. Now let's check. Okay, you can see in 600 it has a text align of center. Alright, actually you can add some dots in mobile version. So if you go back to JavaScript, in here maybe in 600 you can copy this one and set it to true like this. If you refresh, you can see we have these dots. So now you can change this dot with CSS. Just come back here, and up here you need to write select dots. Okay, the first one is going to be select dot. Okay, so for this I'm gonna add a display flex, align items center, justify content center, and a margin top of 2 rem, and finally we need to give it a gap of 0.5 rem. Okay, now let's check. You can see they are beside each other, but we need to get rid of these dots in here. So the next thing that we need to target is the active button. So I just write select dots, select active, and the button. All you need to do is just give it a background color of this button color, button BG. Okay, now if you check again, you can see the active will have this background color. Okay, now let's style this again. For each single of this li, we need to get rid of these list styles, these dots, and again we need to target the buttons inside the li. For that we need to give it a width of 1.5 rem and a height of 1.5 rem. We need to give it a border radius of 50% and a text indent of -1000 em. We need to get rid of this border to be none, and a padding of 0.5 rem, and finally we need to give it a cursor pointer. Okay, now let's check. You can see we have a different dots in here. So if you don't know what is this text indent, if I comment it here, you can see we have those numbers. So in CSS, when you wanna eliminate the numbers which is by default in a library, so all you need to do is just add this text indent to -1000 em and it will make it disappear. Okay, now you can see that we have a different dots in this mobile version. Okay, it's not in other versions. Only when it hits to 600 these dots will come. Okay, now we need to have arrows in both sides. So what we need to do is we need to go to font awesome again. So I just open here font awesome, and inside here you need to click these icons and you need to look for chevron. Okay, just hit the enter. You need to wait. You can see we have different kind of arrow in here. but I'm gonna go with this one. Just click this. You need to copy this text, and down here you need to have a new div and call the slider button. We need to have two buttons here. Paste this one. You need to just copy this and paste it here, and just change this to be right. Okay, now let's check. You can see that we have two arrows on here, so we need to give classes to these buttons. Class, this one is going to be previous and this one is going to be next. Okay, and now let's style this. I'm gonna open the CSS again, and down here before this select tag I'm gonna write select arrows. Okay, we need to target this slider button, give it a display flex, and justify content to be space between. We need to give it a weight of 80%, a position absolute. So for the top we need to give it 50%, for the left 50%, transform translate of minus 50% and minus 50%. So this code will help you bring these arrows in the middle, and this justify will help you separate the arrows in both sides. So if I refresh, you can see that the arrows are in both sides. Now let's style our buttons. So down here I need to target single button, so slider button and our button. I need to give it a font size of 2.5 rem, a cursor pointer. Okay, we need to give a background color of transparent. Just get rid of the background color and get rid of this border. Set the border to none. We need to give it a color of var and this black color. Now let's check. Okay, you need to add this here. You can see we have different arrows here. Now we need to set a hover to this. So I just come down. I need to copy here, set a hover, and I just set a color of var and dark black. Okay, now you can see we have a hover. Alright, now we need to set the pointer even to these arrows to none, because when we click it will prevent from clicking. Okay, so I just copy here and target the eye. I need to add a pointer even to be none. Okay, now refresh. Okay, now let's implement this inside the JavaScript. So first of all, we need to target these two classes inside the JavaScript. Let me open the JavaScript, and in here I need to target count next arrow is equal to document.curlySelector. Next I need to copy this and write prev arrow and change this to be prev. Okay, now if you go to select slider documentation again, and if you click this usage, you need to go down here, and as you can see we have arrows which are by default true, but the way we can change those arrows is as follow. We have prev and next arrows. So all we need to do is just assign our new arrows to these arrows. Okay, So what do we need to do is just come here. All you need to do is first target the previous arrow and assign that to the previous arrow. Okay. Once we are done with that, we need to have a next arrow and assign that to the next arrow. Okay. Okay, and once you have reassigned that, all you need to do is just delete this one because we need to have arrows. Now if I refresh the page, click this, you can see our arrows are working. Okay, now let's check this arrow in the responsive part. If I open the responsive, and okay, it's working now at this point. And you can see once it reaches at this point, it's not clickable anymore. So you can see that's because our container is starting from this point, and actually this is somehow on top of this. So what do we need to do is, if you remember inside the CSS, we set this container to be 90%. And as you can see in here, in our slider buttons, the weight is 80%. Okay, so I just copy this, and in this size I'm gonna paste this and give it a weight of 95%. Okay, now let's check. If I refresh, you can see our arrows are clickable. Let me make it smaller. Now at this size, as we have these dots, we don't need these arrows anymore. So in 600, I just wanna display to none. Okay. Now let's check. You can see we don't have those arrows anymore. Once we increase the size, we have the arrows, but once our size hit the 600 pixel, it will be gone. Okay. Alright, that's it for this part. Now let's move to the other part. Okay guys, in this part we need to implement our blog post. So I just come down here and we need to write blog part. We need to have another section with the class of blog post. Okay, and at first we need to have a title with the class of title. The title is going to be featured articles, and then we need to have our post. So our post is going to have a containers of post and single post. So in the single post, we need to first have a div for our post image. I'm gonna name it image. Okay, and then we need to import our image. Our image is going to be in this image, and this private, we need to give it a post image. Okay, and then we need to have another div for the title. We need to write post title. Inside here we need to have a heading 1 of 1, and we need to have a paragraph tag. I just write okay guys, that's it for one post. So I just copy and paste that for 3 times. I'm gonna change this to be 2 and 3. Now I'm gonna change the image. Okay, now let's check. As you can see, we have our images with the titles and this number. Now let's style them. I just make a new file in here and call that post.css. I'm gonna link this again. Now what I need to do is just split the pages, and I'm gonna target this blog post. In here I'm gonna give it a weight of 80%, a margin 0 auto, and a padding of 3 rem and 0. Okay, then blog post, and for our title I'm gonna give it a text align of center, a padding button. Okay, now we need to give it a font width of 500 and then a letter spacing of 1 pixel and a color of this color code, black color. Okay, now let's style our post. So I just copy and following that post. For the post, we need to give it a display grid, a grid, template columns, repeat, auto fit, minimum, maximum, 250 pixel for minimum and 1 FR for maximum. Now we need to give it a gap of 2 rem. Okay, now let's check. You can see they are beside each other, but we need to style our pictures. So down here, at first I'm gonna target the post, this single post. I'm gonna give a weight of 100% to this one, and now actually I need to give a 100% to this one as well, so I just write it here. Okay, and now what I need to do is I need to write here and target the image. I give a weight of 100%, a height of 14 rem, and an object width of cover. Okay, now let's check. You can see that our image are in good place now. Alright, now let's style this number on our text. So down here we need to target the post and post title. Okay, we wanna give it a display flex, align item center. We are gonna giving this a gap of 1 rem and a padding of 1 rem, 0, 1 rem and 1 rem. Now let's check. You can see they are beside each other. Now let's style this number, post title h1. We are gonna give that a font size of 3 rem, a font width of 500, and a color of this black color. Okay, now they are a little bigger, and also for this paragraph I just copy here, change this to be paragraph. We need to give it a border left of 2 pixel, solid, and this color, this dark black. Okay, now we need to give it a padding left of 1 rem, a text transform of uppercase, a font size of 1 rem. We need to give a font width of 500, a line height of 1.2 rem, and we need to give it a width of 14 rem, and finally we need to give it a color of this dark color. Okay, now let's check. You can see that we have a different title in here. So down here we need to have a button. So I just go back to my HTML. Okay, inside here I need to have a new div with the class of post button, and in here we need to have a button of more articles. Now let's check. You can see our button is over here, and if you remember we had a style for this button style class. Now our button is styled here, and now we need to give a little spacing. So first we need to target this blog post. I need to give it a text align of center and a padding top of 2 rem. Okay, you can see it has a little spacing, but it's not hovering, so I just copy this again, and following that we need to add a hover effect. So I need to add transform translate y and -10 pixel. Okay, now if I refresh, you can see it's hovering. For that we need to add a transition here. Transition all 400 millisecond is in out. So I just go back. You can see that our button is hovering smoothly. Okay, now let's check in the responsive part. So I open this in responsive. You can see using grid you don't have to worry about the responsive part of this code, but the only problem that we have is the spacing in here. So now I just go back. I need to target. So first of all I need to write a responsive part. Okay, and I need to target the media maximum width of 600 pixels, and for the blog post we need to give a width of 90%. Now let's check. Okay, you can see we have less spaces in here, and if I resize it, it will add more gaps between them. So I just copy this one, and this time we need to target the 500. So I just target this post. Again we need to set a gap of 1 rem. Okay, now let's check. Now we have less gap between them. Alright, okay, that's it for this part. We have a responsive blog post in here. Now let's move to the other part. Okay guys, so in this part we are gonna implement the subscribe part. So I just write here subscribe part. Now we need to have a new section with the class of subscribe, and inside here we need to have another div with the class of subscribe content, and now we need to have an h1 with the class of title. Okay, and the text is gonna be okay, and then we need to have a new div for the input. So the div class name is going to be subscribe input, and we need to have an input here with the type of text with the placeholder of your email address. Okay, and we need to give it a class of input. Okay, and this input is going to have a button. The button will have again this button style. Okay, and the text is going to be subscribe. Alright, now let's check. You can see our button here and our input. Now let's style this. I'm gonna open a new file here, subscribe.css. I need to open here and we need to import it, subscribe.css. Okay, so first of all we need to give a background color. So the background color is going to be var and this subscribe bg. Okay, we have a different color, and now we need to target this one. So subscribe and subscribe content, we need to give a padding of 3 rem, 0, 4 rem and 0. We need to add a display flex, align item center and justify content center. So this code will bring that in the middle of this container. It will bring all these contents in the middle of this container, and then we need to have a flex direction of column to put them on top of each other and a gap of 1 rem. Okay, now let's check. You can see they are in the middle of this container, and now we need to target the subscribe title. For this we need to give a font width of 500 and a color of this black color. Okay, now let's style this input. So I'm gonna target this. Now I'm gonna paste it here, and we need to give it a width of 32 rem, a display flex, align item center and a gap of 0.5 rem for the input itself. So I'm gonna target this subscribe input and this input class. We need to give a padding of 0.6 rem, 1 rem, and we are going to give it a width of 100%. We need to get rid of the border and the outline. Okay, now let's check. You can see we have a different input here. Alright, now the only problem is we need to set a hover. So in this case we will change the background color. So what I need to do is I just target this subscribe content and my button. For the hover I want to give it a background color of black and a color of white. Okay, now let's check. You can see it's hovering perfectly. Alright, now let's check it in mobile version. So you can see in a smaller version it's not looking good, so I just come back. So the first one is going to be media, maximum width of 640 pixel. For the subscribe title we need to give a padding 0.1 rem and a text align of center. And also for the subscribe input we need to give it a width of 90%. Now let's check. I think we need to increase the size a little more, maybe at this 772. Okay, now let's check it. You can see that the text has space between those two sides. Okay, now if I decrease this, we need to put these two on top of each other. So I'm gonna copy this for, let's say, for 600 pixel. Inside here we need to give it a flex direction of column and a gap of one rem. Okay, we don't need this one. Instead we are going to target the subscribe, input, and our button. We are gonna give it a weight of 100%. Now you can see they are on top of each other. Okay, our subscribe part is fully responsive. Now let's move to the next part. So in this part we are gonna implement the company's logo. So I just come down here and I need to make a new section. So the section is going to be company logos. Okay, section with the class of company logo. Okay, and it will have a title, the class of title, and I need to add this text here, and we need to have our logo images. So logos, we are going to have image logo.png. Okay, I just copy this for 3 times here. Okay, now let's check. You can see down here we have the logos. Now let's style them. I just make a new file in here and call that logos.css. I need to come back here and add it, logos.css. Okay, now I'm gonna target this company logo. I wanna give it a weight of 80%, a maximum weight of 1280 pixel, and also we need to give it a margin 0 auto and a padding of 3 rem for top and bottom and 0 for left and right. Now I'm gonna target the title. For this we need to add a text transform to uppercase. We need to add a display inline, position relative, and we need to add a padding of 1 rem, and of course it should be right. Okay, and we need to add a letter spacing of 1 pixel, a font size of 1.1 rem, a font weight of 600, and finally we need to give it a color of black color. Now let's check. You can see that our logos are on top of each other. We need to style these images. Down here I'm gonna target this company logo and logos. We need to give it a weight of 70%, a margin 0 auto, and we need to give it a display flex, align items center, and justify content center, and we need to give it a gap of 3 rem and a padding top of 3 rem. Okay, and now we need to style the image. I just copy this one, target the image, and give it a width of 10 rem. Now let's check. You can see our image are in the middle, but we need to have a little border for this one. So I just come back. I'm gonna copy this from here, and I need to paste this. So we are gonna get the before studio element. Inside here, we need to add the content to be none, and we need to add a position, absolute. Bottom is going to be minus 0.3 rem. Right is going to be 0, and the height is going to be 3 pixel. The width is going to be 3 rem, and we need to have a background color of this black color. Now let's check. As you can see, we have a little line here. Alright, now let's implement the responsive part. I just come back, and down here we need to write responsive. Okay, now let's check here. I just inspect this. Now you can see at this screen size the images are not moving, so we need to handle this. Down here I'm gonna target at media maximum width of 665 pixel. So inside here we need to target this company logo, and for this we need to give a width of 90% and also a flex wrap of wrap. Now let's check. Alright, now if I decrease the page, okay, now they are looking fine. Okay, that's it for this part. Now let's move to the next part. Okay guys, so in this part we are gonna implement the footer part. So I'm gonna write here footer part, and we need to have a footer element with the class of footer. Inside here we need to have a div with the class of foot social, and inside here we need to have our social icons. So our social icons will be similar to this one, so I don't want to waste time. I just go up here and just copy and paste that. As you can see, we have social icons. I just copy them and paste it down here. Okay, but we need to change this toggle to a new button with the class of arrow up, and this button will help us jump to the first part of this web page. And we need to have an icon here, so I just go and open the font awesome again, and inside here I want to look for angel app. Hit the enter. As you can see, we have different kind of arrows in here, but I'm gonna go with this one. So I just click and copy this. I'm gonna paste it here. Now let's check. As you can see, we have this arrow and these icons. So the next thing that we need to add is, I need to come here, and that's going to be our profile. So it's gonna be class. Okay, so inside here again we need to have the same thing as this one, so we are gonna just copy and paste that. Okay, I just go up here and I'm gonna copy this navigation from here, okay, but the only thing that we need to add is an heading 4 in here. So the content is going to be, okay, now let's check. As you can see, we have our icons, this arrow, and our profile. And down here, we need to have a copyright text. So I just come here and write copyright part, okay. And we need to have a div with the class of copyright. Inside here, we need to have a paragraph. And to generate the icon for copyright, all you need to do is just write this one and copyright it by your name and the year, okay. Now let's check. We have this copyright. Okay, now let's move to the CSS and style this. I just go back. Inside here, I'm gonna make a new file and call that footer.css. I'm gonna link that in here. Okay. Now, first of all, I'm gonna target footer and foot social. We need to give it a background color of var and social bg. We need to give it a padding of 0.8 rem, 0.4 rem, and 0. And we need to give it a position of relative. Okay. The next thing we need to target, and the next thing we need to style this arrow up. So I'm gonna target here and this social icon, okay, and this arrow up. So for this, we need to add a display flex, align items center, and justify content center. The line height is going to be 10 pixel. Position is going to be absolute. So for the top is going to be 0, bottom is going to be 0, right is going to be 10%, and the width is going to be 3 rem, and we are gonna have a background color of var and this arrow, okay. And we need to have a cursor pointer and get rid of this border to be none, and a font size of 1.8 rem. Okay, now let's check it. Okay, as you can see that we have our arrow in here and our icons here. Now we need to add a hover to this one. So I just come here, I need to copy, set the hover, and we need to give it a background color of this var and social hover. Okay, you need to add this dash here, double dash. If you refresh, you can see we have a hover in here. Okay, we need to decrease the size of this icon. So I'm gonna target this eye inside here. For this, we need to give it a font size of 1.5 rem and a pointer event of none. Okay, now let's check. You can see that we have decreased the size of this arrow. Okay, now let's style our profile. I just come back, and in here, first of all, I need to change this class to be foot profile. Okay, you can see it's in the middle now, and I'm gonna target this foot profile and the heading 4. We need to give it a text transform of uppercase, letter spacing of 1 pixel and a color of var and this dark black. Okay, and we need to give it a font weight of 600 and a padding top of 1 rem. So this style is for this heading 4. Now let's check. You can see we have different text in here, and following that we need to style our copyright. So we need to write footer and this copyright class. For that we need to give a background color of this var copyright. Okay, and this gonna be uppercase, and also we need to add a text align of center. We need to give a padding of 0.5 rem for top and bottom and 0 for left and right, and the letter spacing is going to be 1 pixel. Finally, for this p tag in here, I'm gonna target that. We need to give a color of var and dark black, and also we need to give a font size of 0.9. Okay, now let's check. If I refresh the page, now you can see that we have a different style in this part. Okay, now let's check it inside this responsive. Okay, so in this part we need to decrease some font sizes, and also we need to add just a little clues to this side. So I just go back. I'm gonna write responsive. In this part I'm gonna target at media maximum width of 680 pixel, and we need to target this arrow up from here, and inside here I'm gonna write right of 4%. Okay, now let's check. You can see just a little more close to this side, but I think we need to decrease this one as well, the font size. So I just go back and I need to copy this one. I'm gonna give it a font size of 1.2 rem. Okay, let's check. Now you can see we have a good font size at this point. Now let's decrease the font size of this one. I'm gonna write this foot profile and heading 4. For this we need to add a font size of 0.8 rem. And finally, for this copyright and this paragraph, we need to give it a font size of 0.7 rem. Okay, now let's check. As you can see, we have a small font size on here and also this one. Okay, now we have a responsive footer. That's it for this part. In the next part we will work on the animation. Okay guys, so in this part we are gonna implement the animation on a scroll part of this website. So we are gonna use a library called AOS. All you need to do is just go ahead and type AOS in the Google and just click this first link. Okay, once you have opened this website, you can see if you scroll down you will see these animations, but before we use them inside the website we need to install them using the CDN link. So just come down here, and in here you will see a CDN link. Okay, so this one is for CSS. Just copy this one, come back to your HTML, and in the head you can write like scroll animation link and paste it here. Now you can go back and copy the JavaScript and you can come inside the body again, and down here you need to specify that scroll animation, okay, and just paste it here. Now you have access to this library, and let's implement that. Okay, so for this one we need to add an animation that is coming from up here. Okay, so I just go, you can see we have fade down, and we are gonna use this fade down. So I'm gonna copy this data.aos, okay, and inside here I'm gonna add this. Now let's check. Okay, the next thing that we need to add this, we need to call this AOS inside our JavaScript. So down here, as you can see, it has this function. So I'm gonna copy this, and I need to open the JavaScript file, and down here just write scroll animation function, and you need to call this down here. Okay, now let's open the browser. You can see if I refresh, this animation will work. And actually you can set some type of delays, so let me find that for you. You can see it has the aging, which is the transition, it has the delay one, and the offset. So the offset is from what part of the website do you want this to come up. So I'm gonna use this delay in here. So let me close this file. You can add the delay to 300. I can go with 400. Now if you refresh the page, you can see after 400 milliseconds it will come down. And if you add this one, it will add transition. Okay, now let's check. You can see it has a different behavior. So I don't need this one. I'm gonna delete this. The only thing that we are gonna use is just this delay and this animation type. Okay, so as you can see, we have this animation. For this one we also use the fade. So I just come down, and in here I'm gonna use this data.aos. okay, it's gonna be fade like this, and I'm gonna add this delay animation again. So just copy here, and the delay I wanna add this to 500. okay, now you can see it has a 500 delay, and I'm gonna copy this, add it inside here. For this I'm gonna add a 600 delay. You can see, yes, and this one also we need to add a fade up for this. So I'm gonna copy this one. So fade up, you can see. Okay, now we need to set an overflow to none to this one. So I just go back inside the header. I need to find this list. Okay, inside this nav list, if you add a border, one pixel solid and read, you can see it has a border. But in the parent, if we add some kind of parent in here, div, and let's say give it a class of links. Okay, now we need to target the navs and links. We can add an overflow to heading. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of this. Okay, now you can see it's not coming all the way from here, but instead it will come from its parent element. Okay, and similar to this one, you can add animation to other parts. So I don't wanna make this video so long. I want to do that and will let you know the result. Okay guys, I'm done with this animation part. Let me show you what I have done in here. If I refresh the page, you can see this animation will come. Okay, and if I scroll down, you can see that other parts got animation as well. Okay, alright, now let's see that inside the code. So I'm gonna go up here. As you can see, I have added this fit down, which is the behavior of the animation. It means that it's coming from top to bottom, and this is a delay when we refresh the page. Let me show you. It will set a delay in the execution of this function, and also this is the duration. The duration means that how easy you want this animation to be. Okay, and this is the class name. And down here for the others, especially for this heading 1, I added this delay and this duration as well as in this p tag. And one thing that I would like to let you know is I added some extra div. So let me show you. If I come down here, you can see I added this extra div to this title. This is because if I get rid of this one, now if I come to support part, okay, let me add this. Okay, you can see this title is coming from on top of this image. So I don't want this text to overflow its parent. For that cause, I added this div, and inside the CSS, if I open the support.css, I just added an overflow heading to this parent, and it will prevent from that overflowing. Okay, now if I refresh, you can see that it's not coming from here. Alright, and also I added this duration and this behavior to this card as well, to this title, and also I added this data. Okay, and also for this card, as you can see, I added this fit to the first one, and I added this duration as well, and I added the same behavior to all of these cards. And down here I added this to the button, learn more, to this one, and for this one I added just fit, you can see, like this. And yeah, the rest of them are the same. If you still have doubt, you can go to my GitHub and take a look at the codes. Okay, and yeah, that's it. In the next part, we are gonna implement the JavaScript part. I will show you how to toggle between dark mode and the light mode, and also I will add a loading in here. Okay guys, now let's implement the dark and light mode functionality. So first of all, we need to handle this button. So when we click that, this circle should move to the right side, and when we click it back, it should come back to its plus. Okay, so to do that, I just open the CSS file. I don't need this anymore, and inside the header, I'm gonna look for the toggle class, and that's it. I'm gonna copy this. Down here, we need to add an active class to this. Okay, and in here we need to add a transform, translate x and 70%. Okay, now let's move to the JavaScript. I'm gonna open JavaScript here and HTML here. Okay, so what we need to do is down here we need to add dark and light. Okay, and we need to bring this toggle button in here. So I'm gonna write toggle is equal to document dot query selector and this toggle. Okay, we need to set an event listener to this toggle. So I'm gonna write toggle dot add event listener. Click. Following that, we need to have an arrow function, and to check if this is working or not, I just write console log worked. Okay, now let's check it. I'm gonna open this inspect in here. Now if I click, you can see it's type worked. So instead of this console log, all I need to do is I'm gonna write toggle dot classless dot toggle active. So don't mix up this toggle with this one. This is the name of variable, so let's change that so you shouldn't be confused. I can write toggle btn, and this toggle is a JavaScript function that lets you toggle between two classes. And also we need to change this one as well, button. Okay, now let's check. If I click, you can see it's moving all the way to the right side, and if I click it back, it will come back. Okay, now once we have this button, it's time to implement the dark mode. Okay, if you remember, inside the styles.css we have provided this colors. So this is the root that we have stored our color, and down here we have a class name for this color. Okay, so these colors will be added to our body when we toggle this button. Okay, so how do we do that? I'm gonna open the JavaScript, and all I need to do is just write document.query selector. I need to bring this body and add the class list again, class list.add, and we need to add this class. I just go ahead and copy this. Okay, now if we refresh the page, if I click, you can see I will get that dark background color immediately. Okay, it's working in all part of my website. All right, and except in here I have a problem. Don't worry, I will fix that. And yeah, we have that, but the only problem is it's not working on toggle. And also if I refresh the page, you can see that the dark mode will be gone, even though if I switch to be a dark mode and refresh the page, it will be gone. So the only solution for this is to store that inside the local storage. So how do we do that? Up here we need to declare two functions. One is const enable, which is equal to an arrow function. Okay, and inside here, so this is for when our toggle is enabled. It means when we have a dark mode, what do we need to do is, all we need to do is just copy this one and paste it here, and also we need to store a text inside our local storage. So I just write local storage dot set item, and this set items need to have two values. The first one is a key, so I'm gonna write dark mode, and the second one is a value. So based on that we will add our functionality. Okay, so that I'm gonna write enable. Okay, so another function is going to be disable. So when the toggle is disabled, okay, and inside here, instead of adding, we need to remove this class, and also we need to set this back to null. Okay, so what we tell the JavaScript in enable function, when we click the toggle button, we should add this class list to our body and also this text to our local storage. But if we click it back and make it disable, we need to remove this dark bg class name from our body, and also remove this text from the local storage. Okay, now we need to have another variable to get this text from the local storage. So what do we need to do is we need to write let dark mode is equal to local storage dot get item, and if you remember we have this dark mode key, you need to pass this one. Okay, so in local storage we can have access to our data using the key, and this is the key. Okay, now inside this event listener, what we need to do is we need to set a condition. We say if this variable here, you can see it holds this dark mode name. We say I'm gonna copy this one. We say if this dark mode variable is not equal to this enable value. Okay, it means if that's not active, what do we need to do is we just call this enable function that we have here. Okay, otherwise we want to call the disable function. Okay, so this is something like toggle, like we did in here before. If our dark mode is not active, it will help us enable that, otherwise it will help us disable that. Okay, so now let's check. If I click, you can see this will be added, and if I go to the local storage in here, open this one, you can see we have a text called enable in here. Now even if I refresh the page, you can see we will get a problem, because these functions will work only once we click this button. Inside the global environment it's not working. So how to make it work inside the global environment? We need to set another condition here. We need to say if the dark mode variable is equal to enabled. Okay, we want to keep this enable function. You can see even if I refresh the page, the dark background is not removing. But the problem is with this toggle button. You can see it's not working in here. So how do we fix that? I just come back and we need to copy this code, but this time we need to just add. So in global environment, if the local storage is equal to enable, we want to keep this function and add this active. Okay, now if we refresh the page and click this button, you can see our button is in the right side, and if I refresh the page, you can see it's still in the right side, and if I toggle it back, it will work perfectly. Okay, now if you remember we had some issues in here. Now let's fix them. The first one is this color. Okay, I just opened the CSS file and I'm gonna look for the post. Okay, and in here let me open the HTML. Okay, as you can see we have our text inside this post title. Now if I open the CSS, you can see we didn't add any color to this, so I'm gonna add color, and the color is going to be var and this black color. So it will be black when we are in light mode and it will be white when we are in dark mode. Now let's check. If I refresh the page, you can see we have a white color in here. Okay, it's not working. What's the problem? Okay, the problem is we need to call this inside this add event listener, because when we click we need to update our local storage every time. Okay, now if I refresh the page and click it back, you can see it's working perfectly. We we need to update our local storage every time we click the button. Okay, and that's it. We have a dark mode, and in the next part we will implement this arrow that jump us to the top of our web page. So to do that, I just come back in JavaScript. All I need to do is I need to find this button, which is arrow up, and I'm gonna come back to JavaScript, and here I need to write arrow up and const arrow up is equal to document.querySelector and this class name. Okay, now what we need to do is just set an event listener dot add event listener is going to be click, and this arrow function inside here we need to define window dot scroll, and it will have an object. So the first value is going to be top is going to be 0, and behavior is going to be smooth. Okay, now let's check. If I click this one, you can see it will jump to the beginning of the web page. Now let's check it back. If I click, you can see it will jump to the beginning of the web page. Okay, now let's implement our loading. So when we refresh the page, we want the loading to happen and then show the content of the page. So I just go back. Okay, I need to scroll up, and in here inside this body we need to write loader, and for this we need to have a div called loader, and inside here we need to have an h1 and the name of the person. Okay, now let's style this. I'm gonna style this inside this styles.css. Okay, and first of all I need to target this body and add a position of relative to this. Okay, and down here I need to get this loader class. Position is going to be fixed, and this insert is going to be 0. So this insert is for top, left, right, and bottom. All will be 0, and the background color is going to be var and loader. We need to add a z-index of this 10,000, and we need to add a display flex, align item center, and justify content center to bring this text in the middle. Now let's check. You can see we have the text in the middle. Okay, now let's take care of this heading one. I'm gonna target loader and heading one. For this, first we need to have a text transform of uppercase. Okay, and we need to have a color for this, color of white color. Okay, and also we need to add a stroke to this one. So we are gonna add WebKit text stroke, and it's going to be 1 pixel and white color. Okay, now let's check. As you can see, we have this stroke in our text, so we need to get rid of that black background color. So what do we need to do is color of transparent, and we need to have a font size of 5 frame as well as a font width of 900. Now let's check. You can see our text doesn't have any background color. So what do we need to do is we just add a background color that will move from the left side to the right side. Okay, so we need to have a background image that has a linear gradient. So the first argument is going to be var, and this white color. Okay, and the second value is also going to be this one. We need to set the background repeat to no repeat, and also we need to add this WebKit background clip to be this text, and also we need to add a background position of -700 pixel and 0. Okay, now if I comment this and this one, let's see, you can see that we have this background color in there, but we want that color to be applied only inside our text. For that cause, we added this code in here. So the WebKit background clip, it will help us apply this background color only inside our text. So now this background position will help us animate our background. Okay, now you can see that the background is gone. So we will get this background using animation. I just come down here and write at keyframe and this animation. So in 100%, I want this position to be 0 and 0. Okay, now we need to call this. Inside here, I'm gonna write animation, the name of this animation, and 3-second forward. Okay, now let's check. You can see if I refresh the page, it will come from the left side to the right side. Okay, now let's add a display none to this one, like this, and let's toggle back to the light mode. Now what do we need to do is, inside the JavaScript, we need to display that. So I'm gonna open the JavaScript in here. All the way down here, I'm gonna write this loading part. Okay, now first of all, I just open the CSS again and get rid of this one to have it like this, and open the JavaScript. So in this case, we need to add a set timeout because this animation take a little time, right? So we want to display the contents once the animation is finished. Okay, so how do we do that? We need to first set an event listener to our window.addEventListener, and this one is going to be DOM content loaded. So when our browser is loaded, and inside here, first of all, we need to get that loader. Const loader is equal to document.coil_selector loader. I'm gonna bring it outside of this event listener. Okay, and inside here we need to set a variable, and set time is equal to set timeout. Okay, it will have a callback function, and in here you can specify your time. Okay, so in this case I'm gonna go for 3 seconds. Inside this object, all you need to do is just write loader dot style dot display is equal to none. After the 3 seconds, this loader will be dissipated. Now let's check. You can see after the 3 seconds, this loader will be dissipated. Now all I need to do is just return this set item. Alright, and here we have a problem that you can see this animation is not working after our loading is finished. Let's check. You can see the animation are not working. So what we need to do is, I'm gonna copy this one from here and bring it down here. So once the 3 seconds is finished, we want this function to be loaded as well. Okay, so if I refresh the page, now you can see our function will be executed. Let's check it back. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I hope you learned something from here. So if you have any questions, just write it down in the comments and I will answer you. Thanks for watching the video, and if you want to watch more videos like this, please like the video and give a subscribe to my channel. Thank you.